Hello, bonjour. So, what are the 907 words? 907. And that's obviously a reasonable question to be asking. You say, "Oh, this is all very interesting, Ellie, but just give me the words then, and then I can get on with it." It's not quite as simple as that, and I'm not. I expect you're not surprised to hear that from me because if I just gave you the 907 words, then effectively I'd just be giving you a dictionary, really. I mean, this is the book of the research. If I gave you that, would that make you fluent? No. Anyway, you probably know a lot of these words already, but what you don't know is you don't know how to pull out, or you haven't yet discovered, let's put it that way, you haven't yet discovered how to make them a center of gravity. And that's what a 907 word is actually. So it's not just simply the word prendre. Let's continue with that example. It's actually prendre as a center of gravity. And let me explain what that means. So it's everything that's included in prendre. So if you've got le bécherel or whatever verb book you use, I recommend this one. It's a whole page of le bécherel. So that would be all tenses. So présent, passé composé, plus que parfait, futur intérieur, conditionnel, subjunctif, everything that you see, impératif, everything that you see on that page. All the different people who could be doing it. Je prends, tu prends, il prend, nous prenons, etc. So all of that. So that's already multiplying it up by some degree. Then you've got all the variations also of the verbs. So prendre can also be a reflexive verb. So surprendre can also be used idiomatically, so in a sort of very special way that you wouldn't expect. So all of those variations get pulled in as well, because anything that is based on prendre gets pulled in. Related verbs that work in exactly the same way could also be brought in to the center of gravity, into the 907 word. We're considering this as one word. So comprendre, apprendre, reprendre would work in the same way. And then other types of words that grow out of it. So la prise, for example, plug, surprenant, surprising, adjective, so all of that as well. And if we still keep with the 907 word, just one word, we're also looking at all the different meanings it can have. So how far can it stretch? Or in Picoche language, le rendement. And so we know that we've chosen these words because they have multiple uses and meanings. So, prendre might start with the idea of to take, and you might say, I know what prendre means. I've seen it in an English dictionary, or I was taught at school it means to take. That's just not taking into consideration everything. Prendre en considération, voilà, tout ce que ça peut faire pour toi. And so we look at how far it can go. So we look at all the different situations that it could be applied to, but actually more importantly, what its role is. So is it going to be a role for transaction? Is it to do with getting around, moving from one place to another? Is it about organizing? Is it about taking a decision, taking time? I mean, there are just so many different variations that you have for prendre, and everything that you have there would be mopped up and be considered to be one word. Now, that's why I would say that if you go with my suggestion of building your cahier, you probably have a few false starts about how you're going to build your cahier. I bought myself one actually, a little notebook that looks like a French novel, but it's actually, lined notebook there. You're going to go through some rough versions of various different iterations because what you'll discover as you work with prendre is it's not going to neatly sit on a page and say, oh, prendre to take. Oh, well, here's a few examples. Because actually, as you work through my tutorials, which I call tuto, then you're going to discover that, oh, look, it can be used in this situation, it can be used in that situation. And actually, you'll start thinking about, you might have a page that's considered just looking at prendre as a transaction, and that might be quite interesting because you can bring in pronouns, you can do all sorts of different things. You might, you might use prendre for getting around. You might say, actually, I'm just going to stick with prendre une décision, and then you might build all the vocabulary that comes out of prendre une décision. What are all the situations where I'm likely to be taking a decision, and how comfortably could I reuse prendre in that situation? So it's a different way. It's a different way of thinking, and I hope now you're starting to see. Well, it actually wouldn't make any sense, would it? Why don't I just give you the list? just give me the 907 words. But that won't help you because you know prendre already. So, and if it was just about giving you a list, that would already be published on the internet, it would already be published in a book. You would already know about it, you'd already be using it, and you'd be fluent, wouldn't you? So no, this is not the way that you'll get the most value out of 907, and I'd be doing a disservice if I did that. It's a discovery process, a journey, if you like, one that actually is really, really interesting and really personal, based on the cahier and discovering words one by one. But you might say, my goodness, how many months would it take me to discover all these different words? Well, what will happen automatically is that you'll take prendre, for example, into all sorts of different domains, and because you're doing that, you'll start attract it. You'll notice that it naturally attracts certain kinds of vocabulary that actually you'll be learning alongside it. But your center of gravity will continue to be prendre. So, I mean, the simplest ones would be nouns of transport, for example. But you might find that prendre attracts foods, for example, or many other things. Words don't haphazardly attract other words. There is actually a structure. There is a hidden structure to how those words behave. And you'll be able to work that out and discover for yourself how they behave, how they stretch, and what you want to bank. Because you might say, well, actually, I had somebody the other day who said that they really wanted to bank the idea of prendre conscience de quelque chose. And they used it in about, I don't know, 8 or 9 different ways in a prise de parole, which is something that I do in live classes where people come and they prepare something and then they talk about it, and they've decided to use prendre conscience all the way through. And for them, that was a bankable idea. For somebody else, it might be prendre forme, so something taking shape. Whatever's bankable for you, and it's really interesting for you to then go ahead and discover, look into the grammar that's associated with it. Use prendre to go and discover, or rediscover, or relearn, or finally put to bed issues that you had with grammar, for example. So if I gave you a list, look, here's another little analogy, but if I gave you a list, it'd be a bit like me giving you a map to a city that you already live in. And you say, well, okay, I know all of that. Yeah, but did you realise that the history of that street was this? And did you realise that there's a little alleyway that leads to that? And, take the analogy where you like. So the questions that we always come back to with 907 are, we're building off of them in the cahier, and we say, how can I reuse this word, and should I bank it? And as you go through that process in your cahier, and you work through the tutorials that I give you in rendezvous tutos and in the libraries, the vocabulary library and the other libraries that complement that as well, you'll start to find that actually you're making your own vocabulary book, which is richly full of 907 words and thousands of others, but with 907 centers of gravity. And you might say, well, how long is it going to take us to get there? Well, that's down to you, really. How quickly do you want to get there? But it's not I would recommend that speed is not the game here. It's not about ticking things off. It's about really, really understanding deeply that word, because obviously as you become more and more confident about how the structure works, and you start to see the connections and the hidden structure beneath the French language through these 907 words, you're going to pick up pace. You're going to start to notice patterns more quickly. You're going to be able to reuse more words more quickly and start to apply them. So the whole process gains momentum as you go. So I hope that I've answered that question for you. I'm sorry that I haven't told you that I'm going to give you a list of 907 words, but I would invite you to come and discover them with me and share this moment. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. Bye.